First of all, thank you so much for coming and supporting me today. I feel so honored and so supported by everybody that's here. I just feel fantastic. And then the other thing I want to talk about is why this gallery. So it's the gallery that I have wished that I had exhibited in. And so sometimes when it doesn't exist, you've got to create it yourself. And that's been a recurring theme in my life for about 12 years or so. If you don't have it and you want it, you gotta create it yourself, whether it be run dance or whatever thing, you wanna be with the people that you wanna be, create it. So that's why this. And so what I wanted out of a gallery was a place where artists, first of all, are treated fairly. And that's something that is not often seen in galleries, unfortunately. I want that the artists that exhibit here are treated fairly, and by that I mean get compensation for their work and to be heard, for their voice to be heard. And so the format for this gallery is gonna be that artists are gonna have a reception such as this one, and they'll be able to speak about their creative art process. They'll be able to speak about the context in which their art was created, their background, and anything else that's pertinent to how they arrived to their work. And so for me, that's very important, because then the art is not just this abstract thing on a wall that we don't know what to even do with. Sometimes when people are not too familiar with the artist or the type of art or that type of thing, we walk into a gallery or museum and we're like, oh my gosh, have I looked at it enough? What do I do with this? Like, should I drink some water? I mean, we don't know. And so the thing is that if we get to hear from the artist directly, their process, I mean, so many times I've been told, like in a master's, you go, oh, the art has to start, stand on its own. Well, guess what? Good luck to you, because millions upon millions of people have not had the type of experiences that artists have had as far as understanding art. And so I do believe that in order for us to connect with the art, we have to understand the artist. The point of this painting is to make us question who we get our direction from. Are the characters who seem to be in power, let's say, are they people that we should trust with our being, with our well-being? And the answer is not always. Not always. And so this is what this is about. There are certain figures here who have done atrocities in the name of religion. And so if these are the people that sometimes have had a say-so over us, I say, I don't think so. And the other thing that is very important to me, not just as a woman, but just as a person on this earth, I don't believe in hierarchy. I don't believe that there are humans on this planet that know better than I do. And I just, that is something that as soon as I feel a type of hierarchy, I have skepticism immediately. And so that is what this is really about. I don't think that anyone should tell us what to do with ourselves. And I don't believe in hierarchy, and careful who you trust to tell you what to do with your mind, body, and soul. So that's some of it.
Amazing. Amazing. So next question, a little bit more of a personal one. What period of your life were you in when you made this?
So, yeah, that's interesting. I made this painting in 2012, and it pre-Me Too movement. So there was also a lot of thing that was happening, I think sociologically in the U.S., Mexico, several places where there was a lot of upheaval, as there always is, upheaval all the time, and change and evolution. But there still seemed to me like, hey, we need to be a little bit more rebellious and a little bit stronger with our convictions and about what is right and what is wrong. And I'm a bit rebellious, and I'm also a person who values that we have the right in this country to speak out and to be rebellious and to be able to talk about, supposed either religious figures or political figures. We can speak out about it, and we should exercise that right on a regular basis. And as artists, whether it be through music, we have a lot of fantastic expression of, points of views through music, and we have a lot of fantastic expression and points of views through art, and we have to keep doing that. And we have to keep expressing our voice, and we can't be content with just what we're given. And in this country, we have the right to do so, and we need to keep exercising that. So the period in which to the question, I personally was also, art is also kind of like a premonition of what you are to have in your future. I feel like it's a crystal ball. And sometimes it makes me think, like, did I paint it first and then I became that, or what influences what? Is art life or life art? I often have that question. And because shortly thereafter, I stopped being like the daughter, the student, the wife, I stopped being those things, and I truly became myself. I truly became, obviously I don't experience this kind of oppression, but I experience my own self-oppression, and I put on the oppression over myself in this case, and shortly thereafter, I, stopped being those things and became myself. So that's what's going on. That's the period of time I painted that in.
Okay, so reflecting back on that period, are there any words that you would like to share with 2012 version of Stephanie?
Well, I think it's just more like, I didn't think I'd exhibit this again. This thing has been up and down everywhere. It's been to New York and back and whatnot, and it's a difficult piece to, it's very in your face, and, who's really, it's going to be difficult, a person who's going to put this in their living room. So it's traveled, and it wound up back in my living room, and I thought I wouldn't exhibit it anymore, but I love this piece. Interestingly enough, I think this moment in time, 2024, is an important time to re-exhibit some of these pieces that are very in your face, that are very, they're rebellious. They're not politically correct. I mean, supposedly. But I believe that they're important and they have messages to say, and I think it's a good time to re-exhibit. So that's it.
All right. Last question from me, and then we're going to go to a quick round of questions from the audience. Steph, what is going on with the eyes and the pubic hair in this piece?
Well, knitting, kind of like a very traditional, very old-fashioned-y, like, connotation to like women's roles, but it's so absurd, it's so like rebellious too, and it's so like indecent that I just had to put it in, like, like, I dare you, like, look at this. I dare you. There's a, yeah. I mean, it's just a version of a traditional role for women.
Awesome. Well, in that spirit, do we have any questions from the audience about this piece? Yes.
The red phones. The red phones. So they say God on them. It's like these people, a couple of people, especially this particular figure, is quite important in the painting. He started a movement in Mexico where very, very conservative movement in Mexico, and he collected millions upon millions of dollars for the church. So he basically was allowed to do any terrible atrocities. He was a pedophile of like the worst proportions, but no one ever called him out on it because of the amount of money that he made for the church. And so this guy, you know, they gave him a direct line to God, and nobody has that. We either all have it or no one has it. You know, we either all have it or no one. That's it. Yes. Yes, in nomine Dei, in the name of God, in the name of God, the atrocities that might be committed in the name of God. But again, humans, there are no people better than other people. We are all the same. Fortunately and unfortunately, we are all the same. And so, you know, who's telling us this? Who's telling us this?
So all of them are religious.
Yes, and political.
He did not get his phone answered?
No.
Okay, any more questions? We have some more seating out here in the front if anyone wants to come in.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
On to Eva. So, Eva is a very special person. The way that I see her is incredibly expressive. And the way that I met her is through Run Dance, which is this running and dancing thing that we do on the street. And Eva's a professional dancer. I guess I can say that, right? Is that what I can say? I mean, you know, amongst many things, she's a professional dancer. And so, and I saw her, just the way that she feels music and dance is just incredible to watch. And so it's interesting to me to understand, like, where did all this expression come from? Why is dance and expressive arts, why is it so important to you in your life? And tell us a little bit about your background in relation to that.
Yeah, so my mom is a therapist, and she believes in this concept called essential self. So there are certain qualities that we have that are just innate, like we have them since we were born. So for me, I was actually a 2-year-old that would cry every day because I wasn't old enough to start ballet lessons. So like I don't know where it comes from, neither do my parents. It's just how I am. And so I had a very strong desire from a very young age to be highly expressive. And I also grew up in the Jewish faith, and I'm Jewish, and I'm still proudly Jewish. So a big theme of my life is figuring out how can I be as expressive as I want to be while also being respectful.
And so tell us, growing up, how did you reconcile those two things? Or what was your journey in reconciling your cultural and religious faith and your inner self?
Well, like you, it was very rebellious. I went to a yeshiva day school, like a religious Jewish school in New York, for all of my life pretty much until I graduated from high school. And I had a very like footloose like high school experience. I saw that there was no dance offered as an art form when we had art electives, and so I just created dance, and I like organized 3 flash mobs, and I flash mobbed my high school with like 100 kids.
I love it. Because that's so you. I mean, that is so you. And so, I had another question for you. I do have a whole list, but the one that was directly related to that, and it just flew out of my head. So tell me, though, about what are we going to talk about today as far as your artwork is concerned? I know that there's 3 very important pieces in your life, and I know that art and dance, all expressive arts, have been instrumental in your healing, in your life, in your journey, and like how you got here this day, you know, how you became the woman that you are today. I have heard you say that art and expressive arts have been such an important part. So could you tell us a little bit about the 3 pieces that we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, of course. And just as a preface, I'm like deeply grateful to you to be the only artist exhibiting right now that isn't you in this gallery. So that's my piece right there. It's the 3rd piece of a 3-part series. It's called Complete, with a period at the end. And it was an 8-year process of making 3 different pieces. So the first one is called Daybreak, and it was made in 2016, followed by She Got Out in 2020, and then here's the 3rd piece. So basically the common thread here is that art is healing. In the first piece, in 2016, I was a sophomore in college, and after years of dance and looking at myself in the mirror, I was like, I'm over this. I literally can't look at myself anymore. I need to figure out how to continue to express myself in a way that feels healthy. So I ended up joining a salsa team, because then I was like, all right, it's me and my partner. It's not just me and me in the mirror. And so what you'll see in that piece is a rupture. Like there's this rope that is hanging by a thread, which is how I mentally felt at the time. And since then, I've had a therapist reflect back to me that it's actually just looking for reconnection with self. It's not on the brink, but I definitely felt on the brink at the time. Then you have 2022. So that year, 2 years ago, I went through 2 breakups, which was like, that was a pretty big year for me. And also it was like a big sexual awakening year. So that piece, you'll see there's like a lot of references to sexuality. There's like a sun clitoris. There's like a big rupture of water. And there's even like a man in the bottom left corner, like getting expelled. So pretty strong piece. That piece now lives in the house of the matriarch of my family in Florida, which is like pretty epic if you ask me. And then and not to the level that I just shared with all of you, but but you know, this is like, you know, exclusive access. And then the one that Brookie is standing next to right there, I finished in April of this year and actually started in 2022. I made the background in 2022. I didn't know exactly where it was going besides for I knew that the rope had to repair. I thought that the rope might be like a brown rope, kind of in reference to the first piece. But then as I sat down to start making the rope, it actually needed to be a rainbow-colored rope.
I love it. So there's so much like circular aspect in creating art. I mean, whether we know it or not when we start, I feel like, you know, we create something, it goes on to another theme, this, that, and the other. It's a circle of life a lot of times. And so tell us, though, about how does this art relate to, like, your innermost self, like to your inner child? Tell us a little something about that.
Yeah. Actually, for that, Brooke, would you mind helping me for 1 second? I'm going to grab this piece. Can you grab it by the sides? So, got a question about my inner child. And the truth is, I believe that, our inner children are actually always with us. And so this piece is with me. And in addition to this piece being with me right now, if I can get it open, is, now we got it.
Okay.
So this is me. I'm 1 year old here. So, in the process of making this, I actually looked at this photo a lot because I was like, how do I heal her? And how do I make sure that she's with me in this process? So, she's here as a visual memory.
And so I think that's another aspect that I do want to talk about a lot in this gallery and in art making in general and the workshops that we do together. Art is much more than just a visual thing on a wall. There is a whole life that is explained there. There's psychology, there's emotions, there's sociology, there's political views, there's all of the things that we are internalizing and creating a point of view from. And so could you tell us, though, so Eva's going to guide us, it'll be an interactive type thing, and we'll have workshops in the future where we'll also, people will have a chance, the viewers will have a chance to interact with art making. In this case, Eva's going to show us something about a collage that she's started for us, and tell us what it is that we're doing.
So basically, in the corner of this gallery over there, there's a canvas that I found on the street in San Francisco. And I saw it and I was like, okay, this woman is definitely in pain. I just saw it and I was like, there's something going on with this woman, and I related to it. And I knew I didn't want to keep her as is. I wanted to do something about it. And so basically what I'm doing now is I'm inviting everyone to cut out little smiley faces kind of in the shape that you see here, like little half moon smiley faces, and then paste them down on top of that woman in whatever format you think makes sense. You could also put larger pieces of collage, and collectively we will heal that woman that I found on the street.
Well, thanks again, and we'll be having so many artists in rotation in the future, and they'll be offering workshops. Eva's just here visiting for the time being, so we had to do the workshop today. But in other occasions, an artist will have an artist talk, and then they will offer a workshop, let's say in a week's time, and people can sign up and really delve into some very, deep art-making processes and all of that type of thing. So we hope that we'll see you again soon for that.